What's up, party people? This is Tarkus Mossberg here from Facebook, Jude's Junk, Facebook comic book shop, and YouTube channel. And I wanted to kind of comment on the differences between a 9.6 value or sales price and a 9.8 value or sales price, and the opportunity cost involved with comic books. So some people might be out there only getting 9.8s, like me. I just like 9.8s. It used to be you could say they're the best, right? So now 9.9s and 10.0s, but whatever. 9.9s, I just don't like it personally when I see non-9.8s in my collection. I just want to sell them and get rid of them and get a 9.8. I've talked before where the return on investment or the supposed return on investment is probably going to be better on a 9.8 than a 9.6 in terms of how much you invest, how much it goes up over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. My guess is the curve for a 9.8 is slightly higher than a curve for 9.6. But that's not really what this video is about. This video is something very interesting that I just saw. As many of you know, I'm a broker and go out and buy books for clients. And a client said, hey, I want a Walking Dead #1 9.8. Okay, great. How much you want to pay? I want to pay 90 day is $24.45. And then everything that's reported has a 1 times 1.06, 6% sales tax. So 6% of 2,000 is another 120, 2,150. So add 150 plus 2,450 is 2,600 or so is the 90-day. That doesn't even include the $25 of shipping. So we're talking about 2,600 is about the 90-day average for Walking Dead #1 9.8. Last sale was very similar to that, almost identical, slightly above. So it's actually looks like it's trending up, which is an interesting point. So trending up from the last year, I should say. So he wants to get it for about $300 or $400 below the 90-day average. I'm like, okay, we'll try. You never know, but that sounds like a long stretch. And of course, you have to take into consideration white pages and that type of thing, and look at the book and that type of thing. But we're assuming this is a white pages. So I got him a book, saved him about $300 or $400 off of fair market value. And that includes my shipping to me, shipping to him, my commission, everything. So I shop around these auctions and I can find great deals because my eyes are there every single day. I watch 30 auction houses. But something interesting, I just came up, a 9.6 came up today. I just got him the book yesterday, so usually the big books do one day and then the smaller books come the second day. So a 9.6 comes up today. The 90-day average for a 9.6 Walking Dead is 1,836. There's been two purchases, not just one, two purchases in the last couple months for $2,000. And so it looks like an inflated 90-day average, but the last year average is $1,570 before taxes and shipping. The last sale was $1,648. So the last sale is still above the 12-month average, slightly below the 90-day average of $1,836. But the discrepancy between what a 9.6 is going for and a 9.8, 18 plus tax is 120, so 108.50, 9.50, almost $2,000 is a 90-day average. I got him a 9.8 for just a couple $100 more than that. That kind of blows my mind. Normally, the estimate that we who maybe watch 9.8s and 9.6s a lot, normally the average estimate, assuming all else equal, and there's plenty of items out there, a 9.8 is about twice as much as a 9.6. So if you've never heard that estimate, if all that you see online is a sale for a 9.6 and there's no recorded sales of a 9.8, just find a 9.6 and then double it, and that's about what a 9.8 is worth. That's a generalization, of course. And then vice versa, a 9.8, a 9.6 is about half that. Now, there's many, many exceptions. There's a lot of books where a 9.6 is 300 and a 9.8 is 3,000. These are 1960s, early 70s. Maybe there's 5, 6 on the census, and a 9.8 is just very, very impossible. So in those cases, it goes for a huge premium. But this is Walking Dead 2003. there's a lot of copies out there. This is like ASM 300. There's a lot of copies out there. This isn't a 1960 9.8. This is a book in the last 20, 25 years, 9.8. And so typically in this case, relatively modern book, last 20 years, I would expect to see about a double, maybe slightly less than double. But this difference of basically 2,000 to 2,600, and that's with shipping and tax and everything included, it makes you wonder, are there people out there that don't want to go for the 9.8? Why would they not spend $300? If they're going to spend $2,000 on a book, why wouldn't they not just spend $300 more and get a 9.8? And I don't have an answer. Maybe you guys have an answer. Are there people out there that are just like, I just assume it's too expensive. I can't afford a 9.8, so I'm just going to get 9.6 of everything. Well, I get that philosophy. And I know some people have followed that. Again, the ROA, I don't think supports that argument, but maybe if you're not into it for investment, it doesn't matter. But you'd always want to keep an eye out. Even someone like me who's like, I only do like 9.8s. If I really like a cover and it's an early Bronze Age and there's only a handful of 9.8s and I can get a 9.6 for 300 or a 9.8 for 3,000 or 4,000. It all depends on what the market is. I'm a dealer, so I want to sell it. So if the market, usually if there's only 5 9.8s and it's going for, $3,000 versus a $300 9.6, there's not a lot of buyers out there for that book. So I might actually want that very, very rare book because I personally like very rare books. But if you just like the cover and you just want it in your collection, then the 9.6 might by far be the better buy in terms of where else you could put your money. Anyways, I just thought it was interesting that Mega Grail, last 25 years, I think it's a Mega Grail for the last 25 years. Yeah, I think so. $2,000 book, 23 years old. That's a Mega Grail. And I just can't for the life of me figure out why the 9.6s are going so high. Are people wanting the 9.6s? Isn't Robert Kirkham or more signing at CGC maybe? And they'd want to crack a 9.8 and maybe try to get a 9.8, crack a 9.6, try to get to a 9.8. Again, I would rather just get a 9.8, crack it, and and have a better chance of getting a 9.8 signed than get a 9.6 and really hope when you're going to be paying that much. Anyways, very interesting. I thought I would share it with you. Doesn't happen a lot like this, but keep your eyes out. Unless this is bad data, unless the data I'm looking at is bad. But like I said, that 9.6 had 2 sales recently for $2,000, which seems very, very high. Again, if it's a buy, I always talk about buyers overseas. They have their own weird rules. They do things different. They don't have access to all the same markets we have. They might have limited English capabilities, so they just focus on the heritages or the eBays, and they're probably safer with Heritage because they don't have to import the book, pay the duties, and then Heritage will report the value of the book on the shipping, and then the customs duties will be a lot, so they'll buy from Heritage and store it in the States or some of these other auction sites. They'll buy it, store it here, and then maybe put it for sale later. So they're like buying and selling stocks, and the book never comes to them. So a lot of people overseas like doing that model because they don't have to worry about the shipping back and forth. And many Americans, we don't think of that because we don't have to do with big, expensive shipping costs and customs duties. And we don't, if it's a $30,000 book or a $3,000 book, you might be spending $25 for shipping if you have an insurance policy in place. If you have to add an insurance, then of course that costs more. But anyways, I thought it was very interesting that a 9.8 seems to be going down from 3 years ago. I'm going to go this way. 3 years ago, 28.45, 24.16, last 12-month average, 23.64. And then the last 90 days, it's gone up. So maybe there's a buzz for Walking Dead in the last 90 days. And so the last sale in the 90 days is up a little bit. But the 9.6s, it was 14.38. Then 2 years ago, 14.40. Then 15.70. And 90 day is 18.36. Is it because people are valuing the 9.8 less? Is it because the 9.8 before was overpriced. It was about right before. 3 years ago, it was a $2,800 book, and 9.6 was $1,400. So just about 50%, just like I said. So this is weird phenomenon where the 9.6s are going for way more. The 9.8s are going down in value, and the 9.6 is going up. Very interesting. Thought I'd share it with you. Does anybody have any insight on that whatsoever? Because I, for the life of me, can't figure it out. Happy hunting, guys.